In this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board Podcast, we're going to talk about Texas Tech in Arkansas. This is part 3, where we are going to talk about some of the NBA prospects that can be X factors in their team's Sweet 16 matchup. Big shout out to each and every person that has made the Locked On NBA Big Board Podcast your first listen of the day, and maybe in this case it's your third listen of the day. But I'm your host, Rafael Barlowe, along with my co-host, James Barlowe. And like I said, we are going to talk about Texas Tech and Arkansas and some of the NBA prospects that could be X factors in this matchup. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, and right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet win. So check it out at FanDuel.com. And if you are not subscribed to the YouTube channel, please subscribe, like, share, comment, click the bell so you can be notified every time we drop an episode, because there are days where we might drop 3 in one day. So again, subscribe to the YouTube channel and make sure you click that bell so you can be notified whenever we drop. And then if you love the NBA, your favorite Locked On NBA team has a podcast, or Locked On has a podcast covering your favorite NBA team. You can check it out at lockedondaily.com. It is your one-stop for ultimate team and league coverage, delivered right to your inbox every single day. So check it out at lockedondaily.com. All right. This is the third episode. It was supposed to be one. Got a little long-winded. Texas Tech versus Arkansas. It is, maybe the forgotten matchup out of the 4 matchups on Thursday night, but I think it's a very, very interesting matchup. Unfortunately, it's coming on like 30 minutes after the Duke-Arizona game is supposed to tip off. But you got some stories here. I mean, you have Arkansas, which was a 10 seed, playing against Texas Tech, which has been one of the better teams all season long. Texas Tech has some intriguing NBA prospects. So does Arkansas. In your opinion, for Arkansas, who is the X factor? And I think you can go with a combination of guys here, but who is the X factor that could swing this matchup? NBA prospect X factor for Arkansas.
Raf, I do not know, because this Arkansas roster, just the way they've been playing, you don't know who's going to show up and who's going to have a good game, who's going to have a breakout game. Against St. John's, Karter Knox was hooping. Billy Richmond was hooping.
I like Billy Richmond. I like his potential and his physical tools. He's 6'5", but he just seems like he's 6'8". Like if you would have told me he was 6'8", I would have believed it, but they have him listed at 6'5".
Yeah, and then the thing is, the previous game against Kansas, it was the OGs. It was Jonas Adou that was hooping, and John L. Davis had a good game. So like, I don't know who's going to play well for Arkansas. And they're playing Boogie Fland 20 minutes. And you know what? I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing, because it's like, who are you game plan for? Because you just don't know who's going to show up. Not necessarily show up. Who's going to be the leading scorer is what I'm trying to say. For this Arkansas team against Texas Tech. But I do know one thing. If I am JT Toppin, I'm JT Toppin. It doesn't really matter who, but I'm licking my chops this game, because this is a small team. And look, I'm 6'7", allegedly. All these guys are 6'7". This is going to be easy work. I think you can pencil in JT Toppin for his usual 20 and 10 against Arkansas.
You think Arkansas is small?
I mean, they're starting. Jonas Adou is not a big. Trayvon Brazil is like 6'8". Those guys are all his size. Huh?
Adou is 6'11".
He's 6'11".
Yes. And then you got Ivisic. Then
you got is not playing, man.
You got Brazil.
I mean, they about Ivisic. I don't know what we talked about it last time. I don't know what his future looks like, to be honest with you.
Yeah, because my man has scored like 12 points total in like the last 5 games. And against St. John's, he had 5 fouls in 10 minutes.
Yeah,
they do have some size.
But I feel like JT Toppin is going to eat, just because, okay, yeah, Jonas Adou is 6'11", but that's going to be a disadvantage for him, because JT Toppin is athletic and he's stuck in between positions. But I feel like against these genuine small forwards that are likely to match up against JT Toppin, I think he's going to be fine. But this is going to be an interesting matchup. And again, like I mentioned before, I don't know what Ivisic does. I don't know what Boogie Fland does either, because he's playing and he's not efficient. Obviously, it's a lot of rust. He hadn't played in a while, but he's still being effective. You know what I'm saying? So It's like, what does Boogie Fland do? I do think you test, because I do think he's not good at the rim. I do think he's a better shooter than the numbers are going to project. And I do think he does affect. I think he is a positive player at the next level, as far as a guy that, again, I've compared him to Mo Williams, but the numbers don't look good for him this year. And then they got another point guard coming in next year, top 5 player in the country, I believe. So it's like, it'd be interesting to see what he does. But in this game here, he could have a good game. You know what I'm saying? Like, because he's that talented.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know how Texas Tech like game plans for this team where you don't know who's going to be that guy. Like,
I know how you game plan for him.
You make them shoot.
You make these dudes shoot. I mean, that St. John's game was horrible. I mean, it took me back to a different era. Man, they were 2 of 19 from 3 as a team. So you let them shoot. And to me, the X factor for Arkansas is which one of these guys can knock down open shots, because it's been somewhat of a struggle most of the year. But like I said, you just let them shoot. You let DJ Wagner shoot. I mean, Davis is the guy that can make some buckets. Obviously, Boogie Fland was. I mean, he had some points in the season where he was shooting well, and then the numbers kind of got impacted when he hurt his hand. But he's been, kind of struggling to find his rhythm, which is expected after you've missed a month or 2 months. I like Billy Richmond, but you let him shoot all day. I mean, he shot 12% from 3 on the season. So, I mean, to me, the X factor is whichever one of these guys can knock down shots, and somebody's going to need to have a big game. You just don't know which one. So I get what you're saying. It's kind of hard to game plan because, like you said, against Kansas, it was a different group of guys.
Yeah.
And then against St. John's in the upset, it was Karter Knox, who played extremely well, even though I don't think he shot the ball well.
He had a big shot.
No, he did shoot the ball. He did have a good game. He was getting to the foul line in that game is what kind of really flipped it, because he was just 3 of 5 from the floor, but he was 9 of 11 from the foul line. I think for him, there's a couple guys on this Arkansas team that need Arkansas to keep winning, and they need strong performances to be drafted. Because Boogie Fland, to me, is the only one that will get drafted for sure if he puts his name in the draft. Karter Knox, has he done enough to get drafted? I don't know. I doubt it. Trevon Brazile, he was on draft boards. I was really high on him. I had him as a first-round pick before he tore his ACL. And that seemed like it was so long ago, but it's different coaches. It's like Anthony Black and that Ricky Council team early in the year. He hasn't been the same, and he only averaged like 6 points. And then, of course, with their big situation, it was like they got 3 bigs. They got too many bigs. To me, they have 3 starting caliber power 4 centers, and they were trying to keep them all happy. And to me, none of them really had a rhythm. One of those guys could play well. My man Ivisic, man.
I told you, man. And I told you he might be PP, man. Permanent potential. Because you just don't know what you're going to get. He doesn't rebound.
I disagree. He had 2 games this year, back-to-back. Alabama. It was over a 4-day stretch. Alabama. 27 points, 7 rebounds, 3 blocks, 3 steals, 10 of 18 from the floor, 5 of 9 from 3. This is Alabama. This ain't Sisters of the Blind. Comes back 4 days later, LSU, 10 of 13 from the floor, 3 of 5 from 3, 25 points.
LSU wasn't good.
LSU wasn't good, but Alabama was. Alabama was good. I mean, he had some good games. Then he had a game against Auburn where he went 0 for 10. So I don't know what to expect from him, but those 3 games happened all within like 11 days.
What do you do? What does he do? Like, I mean, I know what he's supposed to do, but as far as just at the end of this season, like, do you stay at Arkansas for one more year? Because I don't know who they got coming in. I don't think they got any young guys coming in, the young bigs. I have to look. And then who knows what's going to happen with the portal. But
yeah, you just don't know.
I don't know.
March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That is 200 extra bucks to use with everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories, and you can even pick who is cutting down the nets. FanDuel is simple. It is very easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly, so there is no waiting around. So again, FanDuel.com to get in on the action for the Sweet 16, the Elite 8, and the Final 4. FanDuel.com. All right, let's switch over to Texas Tech. Texas Tech has some interesting prospects on their team that a lot of people like. I think Toppin is obviously their best NBA prospect. We've talked about Toppin. Yes, he's listed at 6'7", or he's listed at 6'9", but he measured out at 6'7". I think he is a hooper. I'm not concerned at all about the lack of height. I mean, I'm just really not concerned at all. What's interesting about Toppin, I want to hear your thoughts on this, is Toppin, not only did he show flashes as a freshman, he was like the Mountain West Freshman of the Year, transfers up to the Big 12, won Big 12 Player of the Year, numbers get better, and just based off of what I've seen and heard about his draft stock, it is the exact same.
Right.
If not, maybe it's went up a little bit more.
He didn't grow. He measured at 6'7" at the combine. He probably still. I mean, that's just going to be the deciding factor. Now, is that to me is the difference in where he's drafted, but not necessarily what kind of NBA player he is. I think he's going to be productive when given an opportunity as your third big at first, energy guy. But, I mean, the measurements are going to hold him back as far as being, a top 25, top 30 pick. But it's okay. But like I said, I think Jonas Adou is bigger, but we saw what Zuby did to Adou last game, right? And
could have did more if St. John's guards knew how to make a post entry.
Exactly. And this is a better team than St. John's. And JT is not as strong as Zuby, but similar athlete as far as like fluidity. So I feel like he's gonna have a great game. And I don't know what more he can do at the collegiate level, JT Toppin. He's shooting more threes. He's stretching the floor more. But his, I guess you could say, it's going to have to come down to, what he's going to work out and what does he shoot at the combine. You know what I'm saying? If he goes out there and he's knocking shots down, he's like, yeah, he's 6'7". I saw somebody, I forget who it was, they compared him to Thaddeus Young. I don't know if he's quite Thaddeus Young, but if he's got that kind of motor, that kind of touch in the paint, and he's able to knock down threes, then you have an NBA player.
That's interesting. I just listened to Thad's episode on Out the Mud with Zebo and Tony Allen. And Thad, I think he's not playing this year, but I think he played like 17 or 18.
Sure.
And he mentioned that the last 5 years he's played center. Mm-hmm. And I think Tony Allen asked him, he said, man, what position do you play? And he was saying that he was one of the first guys in this wave where he was like this hybrid 3-4 that you didn't know like what position. And he said he guarded all over from Melo to Dirk. And he said, sometimes he had to guard Shaq, but he did mention that he ended up having to play the 5 the last 4 or 5 seasons of his career. So that is a pretty interesting comparison.
That had some of the best defensive hands out. Like he got a hand on everything, whether it be like a deflection or a strip on the way up. It wasn't always just like raw blocks and steals. Like he had amazing hands, and that's something I'd have to like look into, see what JT Toppin's hands are like on the defensive end.
Yep. I think Texas Tech's X factor is Darrion Williams.
I was gonna say that too.
He's a unique prospect. 6'6", 235 is the epitome.
What is he, a 3 or a 4?
He's just a stat sheet stuffer. Like you don't know what position he plays. Like last year, it was the rebounding. Like the rebounding numbers have went down. Which was expecting when you got JT Toppin gobbling up the boards. But he was like one of the better wing rebounders in his first 2 years of college. But he just does a little bit of everything, whether it's rebounding, passing. He averaged 3.7 assists per game. He shot 35% from 3, which is down because he shot 45% last year. Like he shot 45% from 3 last year on 3 attempts per game. The volume went up, but the percentage went down. But he's just a very interesting prospect that is very, very good on the college level because of his versatility. On the college level, you can play him at the 4, but he's such a good passer. And so I think that if Texas Tech wins this game and they continue to win, I think he's someone that could be an X factor whose draft stock could skyrocket with strong performances.
Yeah, he's built like Paul Pierce, man. And like you said, the 3-point shooting is, it's
38% for his career. 3 years.
Career, you'll take that. But a lot of that is powered by him shooting 46 1 year. So, but I do buy him as a shooter. And again, he does rebound well. Like I said, I think he's a 2nd-round pick, most likely. But he's a guy that in the right situation, I feel like I said everybody. It really is about everybody, to be honest with you. Yeah. But he can make shots. He can kind of pass. And he can rebound. And it's like, who does that remind you of at the top of your head? Royce O'Neal, kind of, where, am I a 3? No. Am I a 4? No, but I can do the little things. I will rebound, and I'm going to make open shots. And Royce O'Neal got traded for a 1st-round pick a couple years ago. And he still collected checks.
Got engaged.
He just won the lottery off the court. So, hey.
What's her name? Paige Hurd or
Paige
whatever?
Hurd, yeah. So ain't nothing wrong with being Royce O'Neal.
There's nothing wrong with being Royce O'Neal. Yeah, Darrion Williams, I think, is a player that at best he's a 2nd-round pick right now. And if you're a 2nd-round pick, in my mind, it just makes a lot of sense to return to school.
What if his people are like, you know what? Don't draft us because we want to go here. He might be one of those guys too.
Yeah, but you got to have a team.
That's true.
You got to have a team that you feel really comfortable in risking being drafted. That Austin Reeves game plan might not work for everyone, but I do think that for him, like I said, I think he's a 2nd-round pick at best, needs a strong performance, but it's probably just a lot more lucrative for him to return to school. All right, let's talk about 2 players that, they have different draft ranges in a sense. Adou Thiero for Arkansas, who is out. And then you got Chance McMillan for Texas Tech, who hasn't played in almost 2 weeks. We'll start with McMillan. I think he's a very sneaky sleeper type guy. I don't know if he's draftable, but he does have a skill set that he can hang his hat on. He shot like 50 or 43% from 3 this year. He is a career 40% shooter from deep on, a heavy volume, but not only a heavy volume. We're talking about 154 career college games. He shot 40%, 41%. I'm gonna just go ahead and round it up. 45% or 43% from 3 on 5.3 attempts per game. If he plays, and you never know about, guys coming off an injury with rust. I think for him, he needs Texas Tech to continue to win games and have some big moments where he's knocking down shots. But he's a sneaky prospect just because of his outside shooting. And then you got your boy from Arkansas, Adou Thiero, first round pick, the opposite of Chance McMillan. They play two totally different positions. One's a sniper, and one would be a lottery pick if he were an average shooter. But
for sure.
Thiero, what are your thoughts on Thiero?
Just a quick search. He hasn't been ruled out, but he's unlikely to play. I've had him in the back 20. I had him like in late 20s, slasher, athlete. But like you said, if he's not shooting any three, he's not spacing the floor at all. And again, at the next level, he might be a go play the dunker spot kind of guy until he learns how to space the floor, because it's a totally different game. Scale down his usage, but I don't know. I doubt he plays tomorrow. Like it's a leg injury and he's an athlete, and that doesn't make sense to go out there if you're not full strength. So, but he's interesting, and at the same time, I mean, it's really a terrible time for him to get hurt, because I feel like his stock was starting to go the right way.
Yep.
And it depends as far as like his draft stock. Like, what does he shoot at the combine, right? And how quickly does he adapt to being able to? It's just starting off making corner threes, because again, out in transition and slash, like if he's able to just be respectable, a league average shooter from three, especially in the corner, with his ability to just get to the basket in one dribble, that's a first round level talent. It's just the shooting has to catch up to the rest of his skills.
Yeah, he's interesting. He's not a shooter. Doesn't take a lot of threes. He's only attempted 73 3-pointers in 3 years. But what I do like about him is that he's a guy that has gotten better every year, from 2 points a game as a freshman to 7 points as a sophomore to more than doubling it as a junior. The 3-point shooting hasn't improved, but he knows how to get to the line. He had a game against Illinois where he got to the foul line 21 times. He only made 12 of those free throws, but 21 free throws is absolutely ridiculous in a college game. But he had multiple games where he got to the free throw line 10 times or more. He had a game where he attempted 12 free throws against Texas, but he only made 6. He had a game where he had 12 free throws against Kentucky. I mean, he's had at least 5 or 6 games with 10-plus foul attempts. I mean, that is just an absolute testament of his motor. Maybe we get a chance to see both of them on Thursday night, but they could be X factors. But I think it's going to need more than one game. They're going to need their teams to continue to advance. And so there's only one between Thiero and McMillan. There's only one guy whose team can advance. Well, that wraps up this series where we cover some of the NBA prospects that could be X factors in the Sweet 16. Thank you for making this your first, your second, or your third listen of the day. Once again, it's Rafael and my brother James, and we are out of here.